All right, thank you very much for the kind words. Welcome, everyone. What you're going to need today is definitely some caffeine. This is not exactly an exciting workshop. We're going to be delving into the conditions of participation, and sometimes these can become a little bit murky, so prepare yourself accordingly. Part 2 will be about a month from now. I think it's scheduled for May 16th, in case you want to look up that particular date as well. Now, we here together today are going to be looking at entries from two different documents. One document is the Code of Federal Regulations. This is official. There's no question about that. Whatever's in the Code of Federal Regulations, that's it. It has the force and effect of law. Now, we're also going to be looking at the State Operations Manual, Appendix W, and we'll take some directions from that as well. Now, this document technically is sub-regulatory. Also, I have found, through personal experience, that the State Operation Manual of all of the CMS manuals, the Medicare Claims Manual, etc., that this is the last to be updated. So you may find something in the State Operations Manual that has not yet been updated or is out of date, okay? Now remain calm, don't panic, just double check to make sure what's going on. But those are the two documents that we are going to be looking at today primarily, and words therefrom. Now, this can become a murky topic because we have so many intertwining things going on here. We have conditions for payment. That's where we get into all of the coding and billing and enrollment and all of that stuff. We have the conditions of participation, which we will be discussing today, and this is related to having a provider agreement, which a CAH certainly has. We have conditions for coverage, and then the list goes on. Now, what you need to do whenever you get into a particular topic is to ask yourself, and sometimes the answer is not obvious, everyone, whether the given requirement, whatever it is that you're looking at, whether the given requirement is a condition for payment or a condition of participation or whatever it happens to be. For instance, if we take physician supervision. Now, there's not much in these documents that we're going to be looking at today, and then about a month hence. There's not much about physician supervision. And the reason for that is that physician supervision is a condition for payment. Now, critical access hospitals have gotten into some real heavy-duty things here. Luckily, I'll simply try to summarize it by saying that the physician supervision requirements for all hospital outpatient services is not going to be enforced at critical access hospitals through 2019. As a matter of fact, the Balanced Budget Act of 2018 went back and finally took care of the year 2017. It got left in the dust someplace along the line. But one thing you'll need to do is to determine what are we talking about here? Are we talking about conditions for payment, conditions of participation, medical necessity, conditions of coverage? EMTALA is another one, the Emergency Medical Treatment of Labor Act. And yeah, we need to really take a look at that. And we'll encounter that today because one of the big reasons why we even have critical access hospitals is because of the availability of emergency services. We're going to see that one of the I'm going to make this very general, one of the general requirements for critical access hospitals is that they must be rural. Now, we could have some long discussions about what is meant by rural and whether you're in some sort of a special designated area, even though you're within the metropolitan statistical area and all of that stuff. I won't even try to get there. But nonetheless, rural is the watchword. Now, today we're also going to take a look at observation, at least we'll start, because I've been looking for something in here about the MOON form, the Medicare Outpatient Observation Notice form, that all hospitals, including critical access hospitals, must issue. And it would seem to me that this is a condition of participation, not a condition of payment per se. All right. Now, you should be looking at the title slide, which is not particularly interesting, everyone. About 2/3 of the way down on the left is my email address, Dwayne@AACIweb.com. Feel free to email me with any questions or concerns. I'm not sure. I don't always have the answers. I'm not sure that answers always exist because we continue to fight our way through issues and trying to get the Medicare administrative contractors to tell us what's going on, what we can, what we should be doing, etc. Keep in mind also that this session is being recorded, which is fine. If you wish, you can get it later in recorded form. But just keep in mind when you ask questions, if there are any questions at the end, if you ask questions, they're being recorded, everyone, particularly if it's some sort of a compliance issue. So do ask your questions with due regard. I guess that's the best way to put it. If we go to slide number 2, this is a little disclaimer. As I say, and I'll repeat it again, you need to get multiple resources that say the same thing. Now, much of what we're going to talk about is interpretive language of the Code of Federal Regulations. Now, when you take this interpretive language, even language in the State Operations Manual, and you suddenly have to go to court, you're in some sort of litigation process, this sub-regulatory guidance may not hold up, okay? So watch yourself, please. You have to be super careful relative to what is or is not valid. So my disclaimer very simply is I'm going to give you the very best I have today. You are on your own. Get 3 independent resources that all say the same thing about the given issue, given question, given problem, and then you're probably on the right track. But even then, there's no guarantee. All right, slide number 3. You can read a little bit about me if you wish. I'll skip over that. I travel, I consult, I'm an expert witness in court from time to time, and that can certainly be an interesting process to say the least. And this is where you really get into the nitty-gritty when you are looking at some of this language. All right, slide number 4. All right, well, slide number 4, frequently asked questions. What makes critical access hospitals different from short-term acute care hospitals? Well, there are a lot of differences. One difference is that CAHs are cost-based reimbursed. In other words, the cost report becomes very, very important, okay? Now, we also have different conditions of participation. So, well, what does that mean to you? If you're in a critical access hospital, what does this mean to you? Well, it means to you that you must understand the conditions of participation of a short-term acute care hospital, and then also know about your own CAH conditions of participation. So it's really an added burden. Now, do CAHs have to consider the same compliance issues as other hospitals? Well, for the most part, yes. Not always. There are some differences. There's no question about that. But let's take observation as an issue, and observation is an issue that we could spend hours discussing. Yeah, you have to make certain that your observation is medically necessary. The observation beds do not count towards your 25 inpatient bed limit. So, yeah, I mean, you have to consider many of